Hello and welcome back to another episode of Movie Thoughts. I'm your host, Dominic Tartamella. Took a little break. Took a little spontaneous vacation recently. The last episode I did, episode 68, which I talked about Batman Forever. The Val Kilmer, the Batman after Batman Returns, right? With Jim Carrey, Tommy Lee Jones, Joel Schumacher taking over. Fun-filled episode if you haven't listened to that one. But that was my last episode. Did that about a week and a half ago, I think. And then I spontaneously took a trip to Disney World, the most magical place in the world, the most expensive place in the world. Fun times, but maybe I'll talk about that a little later. I don't know. I'm not going to do a deep dive at Disney. If you've been to Disney, you know how that is. A fun time, but it is very, very expensive. But fuck it. You know what? You live once, you got to go and you got to see the big mouse and, see all the fun stuff, right? The Star Wars stuff. It's all magic to me, right? But today we're talking about other Hollywood magic. We're talking about the seventh installment of the Mission Impossible franchise, and that is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Yes, that's the title, Part 1. I mean, they could have just called it Mission Impossible. If this was like the Fast and the Furious franchise, maybe they would call it Mission 7 or something like that. But they went all out and they called it this. Now the Mission Impossible franchise, not counting the series from back in the day from the 60s, which I have never watched. I just know that the music is from that. I don't really know much about the Mission Impossible television franchise, but as far as the movie franchise, it started in 96. It was directed by Brian De Palma. It starred obviously Tom Cruise, John Voight, Ving Rhames, a bunch of people. And now the Mission Impossible franchise, not to compare, to the Fast and Furious franchise too much, but it's another one of those franchises where I feel like it kind of reinvented itself and, had its peak a little bit later on. As I've said, Fast and Furious to me, it's a love and hate franchise. I like them. I enjoy them. They're goofy. They are what they are. Mission Impossible is definitely a little bit of a better quality movie, but they kind of suffered from the same thing where that franchise was kind of dead and then got revitalized because, as I said, the first one came out 96. You get Brian De Palma directing it. It's a fun movie. Then later, we do Mission Impossible 2, which is directed by John Woo. Didn't really have the same, I feel like, success as the first one, critically. Then we get Mission Impossible 3, which is directed by J.J. Abrams, and that kind of, rejuvenates the series. We get that in 2006, and we don't get the next sequel to 2011, which is Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, but this is when, the series kind of, starts to become better than even the original, dare I say. Because Brian De Palma, great director, love him, Scarface, Carlito's Way. But Brad Bird directs the fourth one, and it kind of puts it on another level. You kind of start seeing, or start noticing, really, he's always done the stunts, but you start seeing Tom Cruise really going crazy with the stunts. He's climbing up a skyscraper. And Ghost Protocol, I think, is one of the best ones still. Rogue Nation, 2015, good one. I liked it. Christopher McQuarrie, who directed the last few after starting that one, obviously directs. And then you get Fallout, which had Henry Cavill in there, had a great bathroom fight scene. And these movies are all good. They're all kind of yet again, to compare a little bit to Fast and Furious, they kind of have that over-the-top action a little bit. Tom Cruise, it has now become a staple in these movies for Tom Cruise to do some crazy fucking stunt, whether it's him hanging off a plane or, climbing a skyscraper, as I said, climbing a mountain in Part 2. He's nuts. I love Tom Cruise. I've probably talked about this on the podcast already with Top Gun Maverick and shit like that, but Tom Cruise is he's one of those last remaining, movie stars, right? Those classic movie stars. And, listen, he's got his religious things, and everybody's got their fucking religious things, if you're religious. But, Scientology, kind of for a little bit. People were really like, he got in the early 2000s. That was really the spotlight of him being kind of goofy and stuff like that, and he kind of had a decline, but then he kind of came back up, and like you gotta love Tom Cruise. I mean, love him, hate him, you gotta respect the fucking guy. Just the sheer like effort he puts into the movies he makes, and he doesn't have to. I don't know why the fuck he does. I mean, he's just a dedicated guy. He doesn't have to jump off the side of a cliff, or in this newest one when he rides the motorcycle, parachutes. Like, he doesn't have to do that. We have the visual effects, we have the technology where we could just, it's fine, but he chooses to do it, and that's dedication. I mean, so you gotta love this guy. Now, this movie is, as I said, a part one. I don't know, like part two, so technically this is the seventh movie. Part two would technically be the eighth movie in the franchise, which is supposed to come out, I think, June of 2024. So it's not that far away. Now, this movie's pretty long. It's about 2 hours, 43 minutes or so. But I gotta say, it goes by pretty fast. Now, like, listen, as I said, with this movie, it's over the top, same way Fast and Furious is. It's kind of got some goofy stuff, but it's a little bit more believable, as I said, than those movies. I dare I say, a little bit grounded in reality. There's actually sometimes a story. The story, it's simple. There's the MacGuffin of, there's this key and people want it, and that's what everybody's going after. And then there's some returning characters. There's some newer characters. And if you've seen a Mission Impossible film, you know how these movies are, right? There's going to be rubber masks worn. I mean, my wife has never seen a Mission Impossible movie, so like when she saw the first rubber mask come off, she kind of gave me like a side eye look, like a goofy. But I was like, this is what the movies are. This is, they're based on the old '60s series, as I said, so there is some goofy stuff in there, but it's kind of become the thing, right? The wild stunt from Tom Cruise, as well as multiple people wearing rubber masks, but it's actually the actor playing them. It is what it is, but you know what you're getting with a Mission Impossible movie. I enjoyed this movie. I'm not going to talk about like spoilers and stuff like that because there's an intricate plot and this and that. I'm not going to talk about that. I'll just talk about the basic surface information of this movie. It's good. I like it. I got to say though, for 2 hours and 43 minutes, whatever it was, it goes by friggin' fast. Like the pacing, because it is, a fast-paced action movie, it goes by fast. It doesn't even feel like the 2 hours and 43 minutes it is. My only gripe, which was with my AMC theaters, is about, I want to say 35 minutes in, the movie stopped. For whatever reason, the movie stopped, and then they had, it took about 20 minutes for them to start it up again. And then they had to find the scene it was at, and then even with that, they played it a little bit earlier than it had stopped, so I kind of had to watch the same scene over. But even with that, the movie fell fast. I think I saw a 5:45 showing, so the movie probably didn't start till like 6:10, 6:15 after credits. I didn't get out of there till like 10 o'clock or so. But that was like also because they had that hold up with the scene. But yeah, this movie does not feel its length. Action-packed, really does a good job too of like getting some of that, like the story beat information out of the way in a slick way that moves the plot along, where they don't stop and have to explain everything. It's kind of throughout the action they're explaining stuff that needs the stuff that needs to be said, right? The cast, Tom Cruise, as I said, great. I mean, just guys, come on. The guy's what? He's 60? Is he 60 yet? I don't even know what he is, but he's fucking running around. He's doing his thing. He's charismatic. As I said, gotta love Tom Cruise, right? Haley Atwell, who you know from Captain America, what is her name? Peggy Carter, whatever the hell her name is. She's good. She's great in this. I think she's a good addition. She's has some funny scenes. She's kind of the outsider that comes along. I liked her. And they, without being, giving spoilers or anything like that, they kind of established that she's obviously going to be part of the crew next time. So, like, I like her. She's a good addition. Returning additions, Ving Rhames, always fun. I don't know. I don't see Ving Rhames in anything else but the Mission Impossible movies, but he's good. Marcellus Wallace himself. Simon Pegg's in there again, doing his comic relief, but a good addition to this group, as always. Rebecca Ferguson returns. You get Vanessa Kirby in here. You get Isai Morales. Is that how you pronounce his name? As Gabriel, who plays kind of like a villain. And he's a guy who popped up in Ozark. I didn't even fucking realize. Because I'm always like, I know him mostly from Ozark. And then I was just scrolling down his IMDb page. And I was like, what else is he in? And he's the brother in La Bamba. Which I don't even know how. He looks like a completely different human being from... You know, in that movie, he's got like a mustache and stuff like that. Any La Bamba fans listening, come on, La Bamba, Lou Diamond Phillips, great fucking movie, right? Richie! At the end, when he screams. I didn't realize it was him. Holy shit, my mind is blown. I'm still recovering from that revelation, but he was good. A great villain. Obviously, if you've seen him in, Ozark, he's good at that too. Then you get Pom Clementif. I don't know how the hell to pronounce her name. Forgive me. But she plays Mantis in Guardians of the Galaxy. You know her. She's in here. You get returning to the franchise Henry Czerny, who goes, all the way back to the first one. And he's in this movie. He's doing his thing, right? It's fun to see him. But overall, yeah. Shea Wiggum's in this movie. One of the characters that's kind of chasing around Ethan Hunt. And yeah, it's fast-paced, man. The action is great. There's some funny things. I mean, I hate to keep bringing up Fast and Furious, but, coincidentally, this movie at one point takes place in Rome, and the last Fast and the Furious just had a big action set piece in Rome. So, you couldn't help but think about that film as you watched it. It's the scene when the big ball's going down, chasing Dominic Toretto, and he's going down the steps. There's some similar, settings, but as I said, Mission Impossible, as much as the action goes over the top, sometimes it's more grounded in reality. I think it's a better fleshed out scene. It's not as cartoonish and stuff like that. But yeah, I enjoyed this movie a lot. I look forward to seeing the conclusion. It does end, as the title would give you the idea, it does kind of end on a cliffhanger where there's a lot left to be said with the storyline. It doesn't... There's some crazy action, especially the train sequence is nuts. Obviously, a lot of it was CGI. You could tell from it, but it is nuts. It's a little bit over the top. It's actually the most Fast and the Furious-esque thing about this film is the train sequence, because it gets a little wild, but you accept it. You like it. It's good. It's like I said, rubber faces getting ripped off. Tom Cruise doing crazy actions. I don't know why he does this. And if you look up the scene I'm talking about where he drives a motorcycle off a mountain, the only real difference was it wasn't actually a mountain, but he really drove a motorcycle off a big ramp and parachuted out. But it's nuts. These movies are fucking crazy. I don't know why he does it. Even for Top Gun, with them all being actually in cockpits with real pilots and stuff like that. Is it necessary? Probably not. But yeah, good movie. I recommend it. I saw it in Dolby. I wanted to see it in IMAX, but the IMAX wasn't playing till a little bit later, because I think it is shot with IMAX cameras. I could be wrong on that. I don't know if it uses the correct aspect ratio and shit like that, but maybe I'll see it again. It's definitely... Listen, especially you're 7 movies in this franchise. These movies have no business being this good. They've become so much better over the years, and it's I feel like it's a really good theater experience, especially to see it on the big screen. See it in the best format you can see it in. I mean, I went to Dolby, and I was I was on a fucking ride. I mean, the chairs were shaking and stuff like that with the audio, and the screen was fucking exploding in my face. My brain was melting as this movie. I actually felt like I was back at Disney World, because I felt like I was on a roller coaster or something, but how loud the sounds were and how it was shaking my chair. I don't get it, but it's not something that you should just see on your TV screen. I would say go out. These are the movies that you go see in a theater, right? And this is Tom Cruise has become a big advocate of that lately, especially with post-COVID and Top Gun Maverick and stuff like that. Go to your theater. This is a perfect example of a movie you go see in theaters. You have to. Not everything's a necessity. I get it, but movies with Tom Cruise in it, Obviously, we got Oppenheimer coming out, directed by Christopher Nolan. He's another big like movie theater advocate. This is the reason movie theaters exist. And for people who aren't as big a movie fans, they may not see that, and they may not understand that's why we love going to the movies. That's why I love going to the movies. That's why people like me. Listeners like yourselves like going to the movies. They get the theater experience. I can't wait to see Oppenheimer. That atomic bomb explode on the screen and all the horror that it's probably going to induce, but it's going to be nuts seeing it on an IMAX screen. But that's why we go. But that's it. That's Mission Impossible. I highly recommend it. Really, like, as I said, Tom Cruise, one of the last remaining, like, classic movie stars out there. He's a dying breed, and he's doing it. He had some hiccups over his career, and like I said, in the early 2000s, he kind of, stumbled a little bit, but he came back. He's really, is the Mission Impossible franchise ending after these two? I don't know. Will it be kind of, as I said, like Haley Atwell joined the cast? Will they have like a new cast? Will they go in a different direction? I could see them doing something like that. Maybe Tom Cruise sticking on as like a producer or something like that. Because you also can't do these forever. I mean, like anything, you gotta go out on top. The best thing to do, at least, is to go out on top. You don't want to stick around and then they just become so repetitive and nobody cares anymore and they become stale. So we'll see what happens with the franchise. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If this is the first time you listen to the podcast, welcome. This is the Movie Thoughts Podcast. A little bit of a shorter episode today. This is how we do it. Sometimes they're long, sometimes they're short. I do want to check out Insidious, the newest Insidious. I didn't even keep up with those fucking movies, to be honest, though. So I may have to watch like a refresher video or something like that just to catch me up. Because those are the kind of movies, too. They're horror movies. You could kind of get by not seeing all them. You'd seen the first one. You've seen that. I don't know. It looks pretty good. I don't know how reviews are. I think Patrick Wilson directed it. I'll check it out at some point. As I said, I was away, so I really didn't get a chance. I probably would have saw Indiana Jones again if I wasn't away, because I'm demented. And you gotta celebrate. I think today is actually Harrison Ford's birthday. I think he's 81 today. So celebrate Harrison Ford's birthday by going to see Indiana Jones again, because that's the last time you're going to see Indiana Jones. And I don't care what anybody else says. I like that movie. It didn't, it took me like, the first viewing, if you listen to my review, the first viewing, I was kind of like, all right, there was stuff I didn't like. After seeing it a second time, I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot, and I enjoy it. There's, not a perfect movie, but I think it's a good farewell to the character. But yeah, Oppenheimer next week, Barbie next week, as people are calling it, Barbieheimer. I just, actually, when I came out of Mission Impossible yesterday, because it wasn't there when I went in, there was actually a big Barbie display, like a Barbie box display, for a photo op that me and my wife took pictures of. You could check those out if you follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at Dom Solo Reels. You can see my funny movie stuff and the stupid pictures that I'm talking about. But yeah, that's the podcast. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll be back soon. Have a good one.